on behalf of the Early Warning for All, Pillar Leads and ESCAP, to welcome all of you to this Early Warning for All Network webinar series, where we are going to touch upon very important topics on the advancement of the rollout of the Early Warning for All initiative in Asia Pacific. So first of all, thanking everyone for the time to share their experiences and be with us. Of course, to our speakers and other pillar leads that are with us. My name is Diana Mosquera. I am the Deputy Chief of UNDRR Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, and I am here having the honor to represent all the pillar leads and ESCAP with this first webinar of this series. The webinar today, it's about a very important but at the same time complex topic on institutionalizing early warning systems, touching upon legal, policy, governance frameworks that provide the foundation to build trust also for the functioning of early warning systems. So a little bit of housekeeping messages for all of us. So please feel free to use the chat to add any question, any comment, any clarification that you may feel that you want to receive from us and from the speakers. We will be selecting, because of the time, some questions to prompt our speakers after their respective presentations. We will also have the opportunity to use Mentimeter to have other questions from your side. So please feel free to use it when we share the information to do so. Just to inform all of us that this webinar is being recorded, so we can keep track of the different exchanges and also prepare detailed notes and learn more after the webinar on what is being said here. We thank in advance our speakers for keeping the time. I know the topic is very complex and there are many things to say, and we will have further opportunities to expand on different points that will be shared here. I will be hopefully reminding all of us on the time if needed, but I'm sure that we are going to manage collectively the time. And please, to all the participants, if you can help us keeping the microphones muted and raise your hand when you want to speak. We are almost more than 50 participants today, so we will try to be as participative as possible. So without no further ado, it is again a great honor for me to start, and I am so pleased to welcome all of us and to hand over to our high-level representative today, Mrs. Atsuko Okuda, who is the Regional Director for Asia Pacific for the International Telecommunication Union, who will help us with the welcome remarks and try to set up the tone of this with why is this topic so critical, so timely, and so important for the region, and why are we together today discussing this. So Atsuko, it's a pleasure. Hand over to you for the welcome remarks.
Thank you, Diana. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to this very important seminar on institutionalizing the early warning for all measures and initiatives. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizer for making this tremendous effort in setting up and implementing this information session with the excellent speakers from all across Asia and the Pacific. Now, I think this topic of institutionalization is really, really timely for many different reasons. Let me share with you the first one. We have heard and learned a lot from excellent initiatives all across Asia and the Pacific on early warning for all, and what works and what doesn't. I think now is the high time to make sure that the good practices scale up and scale out so that we will not be experimenting. We are not going ahead with only proof of concept. Now I think it's a time to institutionalize and making sure that these initiatives are deployed sustainably and consistently. And two, for me, institutionalization also means that we will have this regional and national platforms so that we can make sure that we continue learning, we continue evaluating the impact as well as the effectiveness of our collective early warning for all initiatives. And three, I think it's also very important for all of us to institutionalize our cross sectoral collaboration because it cannot be out of goodwill or personal relationships that we work together. It has to be institutionalized and codified in the policy, regulation, and other documents so that there is a stable and predictable environment for all of us to operate in the, let's say, not only for the short term, but medium term and long term. So I believe that we have made significant progress in developing the national roadmap in the pilot countries of early warning for all. Now, I think we should perhaps move forward and take the step ahead to make sure that these gains that we have built all across Asia and the Pacific will not be lost. Let's institutionalize, let's codify, let's make sure that our partnership and lessons learned, good practices really live a very, very long time. So with that, I hope, Diana, I didn't exceed the time allocated to me, and I look forward to hearing from all of you the perspectives and insights so that at the end of the seminar, we will have concrete way forward among all of us. So thank you. Back to you, Diana.
Thank you very much. Atsuko, I think the points you raise are extremely important. Cross-sectoral collaboration and learning. That's why we are here, and how to advance in this institutionalization. I like your mentioning of codifying, how we can codify further this initiative based in the roadmaps and other sources of policy landscape. So thank you so much for this, for setting the tone and the framework for this conversation. So we thank again ESCAP for all the cross-cutting support and leadership in the Early Warning for All initiative. Also, we have UNDRR as leader of Pillar 1, WMO for Pillar 2, ITU, Atsuko for Pillar 3, and IFRC with us as well for Pillar 4. So it is now an honor for me to introduce our speakers today. We have first Mrs. Farosha Ali, who is the Director of Emergency Management of NDMA in Maldives. Thank you so much for being with us. We have also Mr. Bunten Sisupatafon, who is the Deputy Director General from the Department of Meteorology and Hydrology of the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment in Lao PDR. Always a pleasure to see you with us, Mr. Sisupatafon. We have also with us Mrs. Renga Teanaki, who is the Senior ICT Policy Analyst from the Ministry of Information, Communications and Transports in Kiribati. And with us as well, Mrs. Margaret Liebrecht, who is the Program Manager for the Fiji Red Cross Society from Suva. So thank you all of us to be here. And we can start now with our first presentation on Pillar 1 and risk knowledge, and Mrs. Farosha Ali from NDMA Maldives will touch upon a little bit on local innovations and institutionalization of risk knowledge for early warning for all in the Maldives. So Mrs. Ali, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm hoping that I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. It's an honor to represent Maldives in the first webinar for early warning for all. Going ahead with, I just have one slide to share with you where my main focus is on 4 areas, specifically on policy and legal reforms, the importance of aligning national policies with local needs, as well as the cross-sectoral governance, and I'll be touching a little bit on inclusive and adaptive frameworks. So basically, what we say is, whenever we talk about early warning for all, the first thing that comes to our mind is about technology, you know, having extremely hybrid early warning systems, mechanisms, everything going into digital. But for us, it's more about aligning policies to the governance and also addressing the community needs. making everything into a unified system. So by combining these legal reforms, the local engagement, and cross-sectional collaboration, that is how we can ensure an inclusive framework for early warning for all, which further shifts from a top-down direct to a people-centered, future-ready approach where resilience is built collectively and every voice is counts. That is what matters for us when we talk about early warning for all. So I'll just touch base some of the important things that has been happening in Maldives. Please mind that everything is not being covered due to the time limitations. Going to the policy and legal reforms for Maldives, the Disaster Management Act has been the most important policy document that actually supports with early warning for implementation. We are very proud that we do have a national disaster risk reduction strategy that has been launched last year, where the hazards and the possible risks for Maldives has been identified, and we actually took the HIPS document, hazard information profiling, as a sample, and then we have kind of adapted it, contextualized it, localized it to Maldives. So we do have a national disaster risk reduction strategy, and building up on NDRR, we are currently working on developing a risk register for Maldives as well. So that work is ongoing. We do have a climate change adaptation plan, further contributes to climate change hazards, and most of all, early warning for all roadmap has been really helpful, especially seeking dedicated funds towards early warning for all targets. The stakeholders, we are trying to plug in on ongoing activities into the roadmap activities rather than waiting for funds to come in. So this roadmap has been really helpful aligning our works into the early warning for all needs. Uh, Talking about how we can better align national policies with local needs, the first and foremost, the most important thing is awareness across sectors and the involvement of CSOs, especially in a country where more like Maldives, where islands are scattered, geographically isolated. The involvement of CSOs and awareness of cross sectors is very much needed. Decentralized, we do have decentralized councils, but we further need to strengthen the decentralization. Right now, disaster manage has been a little bit of limited in local context because of um, expertise and so on. So we still need to further strengthen the decentralization of the councils. Definitely, community engagement is crucial. Without that, especially in a country like Maldives, it's very difficult to align the national policies with local needs. Um, Looking into the cross-sectoral governance, we do have quite a lot, no, a lot of number of programs that has been working with NDMA and other sectors as well. For instance, tourism resilience is where because tourism is one of the most critical sector for Maldives economy. Tourism resilience is a priority for us as well. School preparedness because we believe that future is on the students. So we do focus on school preparedness, and also there are other programs that is being focused on other sectors as well. And for us, for cross-sectoral governance, the most important thing is the strong relationships between the pillar leads. For pillar one, pillar two, three, or four, we are quite, even though there might be challenges in policy level or maybe as per the policies, we do have a very much stronger relationship between our pillar leads. For example, NDMA understood that we need to, review our disaster management act just in case there might need to be changes that has been bring to the act for better implementation for early warning fall, which is being actually supported by IFRC disaster law team, supported by MRC. So we do work together very closely, even with meteorological services and so on. And a very interesting thing that has been happening is some of the SOEs are actually integrating MMS alerts into the strengthening internal early warning procedures. For instance, the RTL, where all the transports are being led in the country, they now focus on the early warning messages that is being issued by meteorological services when they talk about their internal operations as well. So this is actually happening first time here in Maldives. So that is something very important. Working on the inclusive and adaptive frameworks, the most important thing we believe is that we have to address gender, disability, as well as migrant inclusion in these frameworks. Um, Again, in a country like Maldives, where we have a lot of migrants working in different sectors, we cannot actually overlook the importance of migrant inclusion. So currently, we are actually having a campaign called Hushiaru meaning preparedness in English. We're trying to launch a national campaign focused on DRR, where we will be launching a website, a platform for anyone for educational purposes, for their work or anything, if they need any information on disaster management or any awareness material, they can just log into this platform where they get all the necessary information. So we are trying our best to include disability as well as, screen reading, sign language, and also in different multiple languages. So we are actually working on that as well. We do believe on updating and digitalizing hazard maps. The younger community right now, as we say, the new Gen Zs, alphas, they're very much onto phones, right? They are working on social media. So for them, rather than papers or maps on the walls, we believe that for them, it's very important to have these digitalized maps and informations. They don't really go into the plans now. They focus on one single, a diagram or infographic where they capture all the necessary information. So that is something we are actually working for as well. And we also do believe in early warning for all. It has to go beyond hydrometeorology. What I'm trying to say is actually, when UN actually launched the Early Warning for All initiative, we understand that the focus was very much rightly on hydrometeorological hazards and other climatic hazards for like storms, floods, droughts. These incidents has been taking lives of a lot of people. But then for a country like Maldives, our lived experiences has showed that early warning needs to go further. That it should go beyond hydrometeorological hazards as well. For instance, flooding, it triggers a lot of health outbreaks. I'm sure it's the case in most of the other countries as well. Erosions can disrupt livelihoods. um, the shocks actually extend well beyond weather. So that's why we talk about early warning for all beyond hydrometeorology. We talk about a people-centered approach, that adapts early warning for all to the full spectrum, which addresses the risk of our community faces. So basically, that's what I wanted to share
Thank
on
you.
this webinar, and I'm very happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you, and I hope I'm on time.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ali. I think this gives a very important introduction to the different presentations as you cover general view of policy and legal reforms, but also how the importance of aligning them to local needs. The cross-sectorial governance and the different examples and thematic initiatives that you presented, and very importantly, the inclusive aspect of it, how different groups should be and are in Maldives being considered as part of this. And very importantly, as you mentioned at the end, the multi-hazard approach and how different hazards need to be taken into account. Thank you. I am sure there are other questions from the audience, so we will come back to that. Now I will hand over to our Pillar 2 speaker, being a little bit specific in terms of detection, observations, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting, and how institutionalization and policy landscape it's important for this aspect. So Mr. Buntem Sisupatafong from Department of Meteorology and Hydrology, Deputy Director General, the floor is yours from Lao PDR. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Diana, and good morning, everyone. So on behalf of DMH of Lao PDR, I would like to present the early warning for all, Pillar 2, detection, observation, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting. So under the Pillar 2 of early warning for all roadmap, the action plan emphasize the capacity buildings and infrastructures improvement for early warning system and hydromet service in Lao PDR. So the effective legal or policies reforms in strengthening early warning system in Lao PDR. So now we have the law on meteorologies and hydrologies. The first version that is released in 2017. And also we have disaster management law to establish legal basics for disaster risk management and early warning systems. And also we have national strategy for disaster risk reductions to promote multi-hazard early warnings. And the climate change decree and resilience framework to integrate the climate science and into the hazards monitoring. So the early warning for all roadmap reinforce the hydromet modernizations, impact-based forecasting pilots, and institution coordinations supported impact-based forecasting pilots and hydromet modernizations. Next slide, please. So how we can better align the national policy with the local needs and capacities. So to centralize the governance structures from the national center to the village levels to ensure the local ownership. So the village disaster management committees, including the women, youth, sectoral representative, and the elderly for inclusive local engagements. And also the national disaster management frameworks must to be fully localized with the clear budgets and the measurable targets. Strengthening last mile disseminations with local languages, mobile alerts, loudspeakers, and social media is critical. The early warning for all roadmap emphasize aligning national hydromet system with the community-based early warning and response. Next slide, please. So we have the example of the successful cross sectoral governance for early warning system, such as the National Disaster Management Committee or NDMC, chaired by the Deputy Prime Ministers, ensure the high-level coordinations across the ministries. And the Ministry of Social Welfare, Ministry of Agriculture and Environment, Ministry of Public Work, Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Finance. Forest awareness, hydromet monitoring, resilience, infrastructures, and financings. Also, the international organizations like ASEAN and UN agencies and development partners provide the technical support and regional coordination platforms. The impact-based forecasting pilot link meteorological services with the sectoral ministries such as agriculture, transport, health, to improve the decision making. Next slide, please. So how can we ensure the institutional frameworks? So the early warning for all calls for embedding gender equalities, disability, and social inclusion into early warning and response. Village level structures already include the women, youth, and elderly representative, ensuring a diverse perspective. So the future system must leverage digital platform, mobile apps, and community radios for inclusive coverage. Development of integrated risk management platform should be in place for centralized hazards, exposure, and vulnerability data. So next slide, please. So for conclusion, Lao PDR has strong legal and institutional foundation for early warning system ensure in the early warning for on roadmaps. The priority now is localization, last mile dissemination, and inclusivity. Cross-sectoral governance and integrated data system are essential to resilience. Early warnings must be multi-hazard, end-to-end, people-centered, inclusive, accessible, and actionable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director, for this overview of the different policy landscape for the foundation of early warning systems in Lao PDR. I'm sure there will be several questions on this to go deeper on the topic, so thank you for staying with us. Our next speaker represents Pillar 3, digitalization and dissemination and communication, as the other pillars are essential for warnings to reach everybody and to be effective. So we thank Mrs. Renga Teanaki, the Senior ICT Policy Analyst from the Ministry of Information, Communications and Transport in Kiribati, to share the linkages between institutionalizing early warning systems and the digital transformation that they are leading. Mrs. Teanaki, the floor is yours.
Okay. I'm Kamna Melri. A warm greeting to everyone joining this webinar from different locations. I am Ndenga Teanaki, Senior ICT Policy Analyst, working at the Ministry of Information, Communication and Transport. And my job to oversee the policy and planning units. Today, I am happy to share how ICT is engaged in early warning for all for disaster management, risk management. Next slide, please. My presentation will focus on how Kiribati uses ICT for early warning systems in the context of climate change and disaster risk management, which align to Asia Pacific early warnings for all. Two key points I want to share here. First is our ministry involvement in disaster management is mandated by the Disaster Act 2029. Specifically, Part 2, Section 13 outlines our responsibility for maintaining communications and transport equipment for public warning and disaster response, and for providing logistical and emergency telecommunication support to the Kiribati National Expert Group and other ministries for making decision. To fulfill this mandate, our primary action has been the development of the National Emergency Telecommunication Plan for No One Left Behind. Next, please. Here are some of the incidents I just want to share with you. The key actions we developed a new regulation to establish a clear coordination structure and define the roles of leading agencies during these different disaster scenarios. This regulation focuses on different levels of disaster and health emergencies. Secondly, from an ICT perspective, we initiated the Smart Island project on the Mana Islanders and often affected by cyclones and large sea swells. We established a digital hub where the community can access real-time weather forecasts before fishing or farming. Finally, a key action has been developed of the National Emergency Telecommunication Plan to inclusive institutional frameworks to be adaptable to future risk. Next, please. Next, please. Before I dwell into the detail of NATP, I want to share the success story of the Smart Thailand project, where the digital skills training on Tamana. This project was supported by ITU. Tamana was selected due to establish the digital hub in there. Hence, one of the islands affected and have a back impact on disaster. The project was coordinated by our office, the TTO, under the Ministry of ICT, in collaboration with the Manor Island Council and key stakeholders from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, and NDMO and Kiribati Met Office. Next, please. Yeah. Yeah, before I'll explain more on that, I just want to elaborate on the previous slide that the need assessment conducted on the island, it is a requirement from, the need from the community where they require the digital skills training. And the objective of this digital skills training is to effectively use of ICT devices and access government services remotely, especially to access the real-time forecast, weather forecast. And this one, the National Emergency Telecommunication Plan, I want to elaborate more on this. Is a strategy to ensure communication is available during a disaster. The core principle, next please, the core principle of our national emergency plan is to build on the principle that ICT plays a critical role in disaster management. By facilitating the real-time flow of information and utilizing various technologies, ICT can help mitigate the impact of disasters. ICT's engagement through multi-assets. Next, can you just click it, please? ICT engagement through multi-asset, multi-technology, multi-phase, and multi-stakeholders. NETP is important in the context of Kiribati to improve coordination of disaster management, identifies critical telecommunication infrastructure and resources, determines the required capabilities for emergency responses, establish multi-stakeholder roles and responsibilities, provides support and justification for funding, promotes the need of day-to-day resources and procedures to maintain preparedness, and creates a framework for permanent ongoing consultation and cooperation. In the mitigation, ICT role is to in this NTP, in the mitigation phase, ICT's role is to define and lead sectors during a disaster, supported by strong policies and regulations for implementing early warning systems. Preparedness phase involves creating a written plan and procedures like NTP to ensure critical operations are maintained during and after an emergency. The response, telecommunication, and ICT infrastructure are crucial for government, the private sector, the NGO, humanitarian and agencies, and citizens in the aftermath of a disaster. Recovery, this phase occurs after the incident where the restoring of telecommunication infrastructure is one of our key role in this. The NATP also considered the overall governance structure for disaster risk management, including the review of registration policies and standard operating procedures. SOB is to provide the concise execution for emergency response action address all assets and related types of disasters. A basic SOB for telecommunications should covering key entities, key people, positions, public alert procedures, and various telecommunications services. Next, please. In the NETP, next, please. NETP, I describe the elements of telecommunication and ICT services and the actors involved in DRRM. The outcomes are meant to strengthen the use of telecommunications and ICT and be able to support DRRM activities appropriately. There are a number of various considerations which may have gaps in the DRRM ecosystem, of which a number may apply for Kiribati. The focus of NATP is to calculate these gaps, identify
Thank you. I don't know if it's me or I think we lost Renga. Renga, I think you're muted or something happened with internet. I see you muted. Your mic is muted. Can you hear me, Tamili? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Diana.
Thank you. I was just checking. Thank you so much. I think Renga managed to go through the key messages. I don't know if you can hear me, but I agree with you. ICT plays a critical role in early warning and what you have been doing in the development of the National Telecommunication Plan, and then also translated into the field with projects like the Basic Digital Skills Training shows how complex and how important it is to translate policy landscape into concrete actions on the ground. There are a couple of questions on the chat regarding telecommunications, so I'm sure this is a topic that generates a lot of discussion. So we will come back to that, and we are very, very happy to hand over to the next speaker with the very challenging task as well of discussing on the last mile and the action and preparedness on the ground. So we are glad to welcome again Mrs. Margaret Lipgretz from the Fiji Red Cross in Suva for the presentation on all the institutionalizations efforts for Pillar 4 and the different aspects that represents on the ground in Fiji. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Diana. And warm Pacific greetings, everyone. Bola Vinaka. And thank you for the opportunity to share our experience as it relates to Pillar 4. I will briefly touch on 4 key areas in this short presentation. 1, Fiji's legal and policy landscape. 2, the alignment of local policies and needs. 3, some examples of success and maybe more on our commitment at Fiji Red Cross Society to the overall umbrella of early warning for all. And lastly, how we try and ensure that our work is inclusive and adaptive. In our next slide, it will talk about the legal and policy foundation. In the next slide, please. In Fiji, one of the most significant steps forward has been the recent passage of the National Disaster Risk Management Bill in 2024. This bill replaces the old 1998 Act and really modernizes the way our country looks at disaster risk, early warning, and response. What's important about this reform is that it takes an all-hazard approach so that our systems are not only ready for cyclones, but also biological, environmental, geological, and even technological hazards. The bill is also formally establishes a multi-hazard early warning system and connects it across the national, divisional, provincial, district, and community levels. That multi-tiered approach is crucial for a small country like Fiji, where communication across island can be so challenging. Another important reform is the creation of the Disaster Risk Management Information System that centralizes data on hazards. Having that real-time information helps authority issue timely and accurate warnings, but also helps community to prepare in advance. And finally, the new bill recognizes the role of the private sector and civil society in disaster preparedness and response. Businesses, humanitarian organizations like ours, and communities all now have a clear place in Fiji's legal, and policy framework for disaster risk management. These reforms have really laid the foundation for stronger, more reliable, and more inclusive early warning system. In my next slide, I will talk about the local alignment and governance. At Fiji Red Cross Society, a small organization like ours with our reach of over 800 volunteers and 16 branches scattered across Fiji, we've seen firsthand how important this alignment is, and we see ourselves playing a key role in connecting these frameworks with the communities we serve. National policies and systems can be very strong on paper, but they only work if they reflect local realities. Fiji has some good examples of cross-sectoral governance that support early warning. One is the establishment of the National Disaster Risk Management Council, which brings together government agencies, civil societies, private sector, and technical experts to provide oversight and coordination, and our auxiliary role as Fiji Red Cross to government is further enhanced. Another example is the legal recognition of the Fiji Business Disaster Resilience Council. Under the new law, means that the private sector is no longer an afterthought. It is part of Fiji's disaster risk governance system. That is essential because businesses play a huge role in maintaining supply chains in a small country like ours, communication and service during crisis. In our next slide, on highlights, and I wish to draw your attention to the UN Fiji Anticipatory Action Framework, which is a powerful example of a whole of government and whole of society coordination. Endorsed by Government of Fiji, it brings together national agencies, UN partners, civil society, and communities under a unified proactive approach to disaster preparedness, where forecast triggered pre-planned responses, and everyone from health workers to local leaders know their role. As you all know, early warning system must be inclusive, interconnected, and forward-looking. At Fiji Red Cross, we try and are committed to linking early warning system with health. For example, our community-based surveillance system is already flagging early signs of disease outbreaks, enabling rapid health responses, an initiative done in collaboration with Ministry of Health and key community health workers in 300 communities throughout Fiji by end of this year. Might be a small figure, but big in a small country like ours. With the active support of the IFRC SUVA team, and through initiatives like the Zurich Flood Resilience Project and the Simplified Early Action Protocol for Cyclones, we are strengthening Fiji's capacity to manage today's risks while proactively preparing for uncertainties of climate change. For the Fiji Red Cross Society, this means a realistic and an unwavering commitment to ensuring that early warning system and preparedness reaches every corner of our communities while embedding resilience and innovation into our institutional framework for the future. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Liebretz. I think your phrase is strong in paper, but only work if they reflect local realities, I think could be the slogan of all the cross-cutting message of all the presentations. And thank you for highlighting that so clearly. The policy landscape, it is very important, but it is only good if it reflects, as you have presented, the local realities, and the example of the anticipatory action framework, for example, that it's very much linked to the reality on the ground. So thank you for putting that so clearly. I need now to thank all the speakers for their presentations. And now I think it's a good opportunity also to hear symbolically a little bit from our audience through the help of Mentimeter. So if we can maybe have the QR code in the screen, I think that will help colleagues to participate, if that's possible, with a very short but complex question. after hearing all our examples and good practices, we also would like to touch upon what is the biggest challenge in the different countries, in your countries, to institutionalize early warning system. We may not have all the time to discuss here, but at least we can keep track of how you see these challenges and how we can integrate those responses in our next discussions and series of webinars. So if you have, we can have 5 minutes to go to the code, the Mentimeter, and share your ideas on what is the biggest challenge in your country for institutionalizing early warning systems as of today. We will see what are the different ideas that we have. We can very quickly share, and then we start seeing some responses. Of course, cross-sectorial governance is a big challenge, ensuring last-mile communication, overcoming mistrust in warnings, okay, and addressing resource constraints for timely, accessible, and actionable alert. Okay, I think we have financial regulatory understanding, policy lack of coordination, fiscal resources to keep investing in operationalization. Thank you for sharing government's capacity in better articulating the needs of population. So we see collective concern in terms of how this policy landscape and how institutionalizations, of course, rely extremely on financial resources. We will have the opportunity to discuss also further on that topic through this series, and cross-sectorial governance and coordination, and very importantly, the trust that institutions collectively also generate and transmit to the population through the quality of the warnings and the clarity of the warnings and other factors. Okay, feel free, please, to continue filling in this Mentimeter, because that helps us also a lot to frame future discussions. Sustainability of instruments such as policy, legal, and SOPs, diverse regions, capacities, lack of community awareness, the buy-in and commitment from other sectors to incorporate early action. Thank you so much for this. I would like also, we have a couple of questions on the chat, so because of time, it's not possible to go through all of them, but maybe if one of our speakers, let's see. We have some questions on transboundary early warning systems. We have questions on, there was one very specifically on what was mentioned also through the presentations on how to ensure if there are any examples or further examples on any gap between tourists, migrants, and roaming subscribers through roaming alerting capabilities, or how digital technology and communications are being used to reach different groups that might not be easily reached in normal circumstances. I think there was an example on that also through the presentations. Are there any countries in the region that are seeking for providers for mobile-enabled early warning systems, such as cell broadcast or location-based SMS? So I think that the how to reach more people through the services that digital technology and telecommunications offer is an important concern from the audience. So I don't know if one of the speakers or maybe our ICT colleagues would like to address very quickly some elements of response to these questions. I see Trenga opening the video. I cannot hear you if you are trying to speak. There is a question who has 6 votes. Which countries in the APAC region are currently seeking providers for mobile-enabled early warning systems, such as cell broadcast or location-based SMS? Among Asia-Pacific countries, which ones have already included cell broadcast requirements in their regulatory framework? So it's a broad and complex question. If there is any elements of response to that, that's the question who has the most votes in the chat. I think Renga is trying to reply, but her internet is not helping. So we will take note of those questions and we will reconvene with the speakers to try to provide some elements of response to those, and we can keep track of those specific themes that have generated interest through this conversation. We have also a question on very specific on child-based early warning systems. So if there is maybe one speaker that can share on those topics, so we can reach out to other partners to answer those specific questions. Yes, please, Harusha. Thank you.
I thought of sharing some experience. We talk about which countries have identified a gap in reaching tourists, migrants, and roaming subscribers. So in Maldives, as you all know, we have sea all around, and our main source of income is tourism and fisheries. So it falls under this as well. And
Yes.
our community, a large population of our community are migrants. So our focus actually is based on these three areas. We do have challenges in reaching those fishermen out on the sea. We do have challenges on that, as well as in some of the local islands, we have uninhabited islands. There are like thousands of them where we are using this for economic purposes, like agricultural purposes. And these islands are mostly looked after migrant population or experts. Maybe most of them are Bangladeshis who are staying there for agricultural purposes. So we do have a gap and we do have challenges in reaching out to them. We are currently trying to go for different early warning mechanisms. We have a project with Japan. It's about early warning, integrating it into the I'm not an expert in technology and communication, so it's mainly about having a router, and when there is an alert, there is a siren coming out from the router, and then when you open it, you get the message. So something like that. We are working with Japan to implement this project, so hoping that we will be able to reach some of the communities with the help of it. And for the tourists, actually, there's not a huge challenge or gap reaching out tourists because we have one island, one resort concept mostly, and we do have local tourism in local islands. So we are integrating the local tourisms into the island disaster management planning processes. So they're not left behind. It's a part of the island community-based disaster risk management. And for the tourism, local tourist resorts, they have very strong early warning systems. I mean, they do have alarm systems, they do have PA systems, they have multiple languages, early warnings coming. And then there is a communication through tourism ministry where they send a text to all these resorts that this might be happening so they can actually release an early warning for the tourists and staff as well. So in terms of tourists, I think we are working pretty well, although there are areas that we can further strengthen. But for the migrant population and these traveling people, especially out on the sea, we are still working on that. And I am aware that our telecommunication partners, Communication Authority of Maldives, is also working on strengthening this communication area as well. So I wanted to touch base on that. And also, there's one question that drew my attention actually. How do we ensure mainstreaming safeguarding measures in the early warning systems? It's for as the lead for Pillar 1, risk information management. That is something very catchy for me. So I thought of sharing some of my thoughts on that. Um, for me, early warning system actually means it should be embedded with protection. It should have inclusion, and also it should have accountability in each and every stage of it. So when we talk about risk information or risk assessment, we should be able to identify vulnerable communities. We should map them. We should have a people-centered design in terms of accessibility. We should have multiple languages and multiple communication channels to reach the migrant population, to reach the disabled, to reach the vulnerabilities. And also we should be having, further guidelines which prevents stigmatization, which is very common in disasters. So we should have that. We should be able to have different, guidelines or SOPs that link services to protection, family protection, child protection, and also maybe have these guidelines should be very simple and clear rather than having a comprehensive different disaster management terms does not actually work for the public. So it should be in layman language, very clear, very simple for the people to be used. And we should not forget about monitoring and feedbacks. We should have a way that people can actually give us feedbacks, uh, have complaints. I mean, somewhere to register the complaints, and we should be able to answer them back. That's how we can ensure warnings don't just reach people, but it also has a way to keep them safe, keep them respected, also keep them empowered. So I just wanted to touch on this too.
Thank you very much, Parosha. You are in fact bridging with the next webinar, which the topic is inclusive multi-hazard early warning systems, collaborating with all people and all the stakeholders within and across every pillar of early warning chain. So you are a perfect advocate for the next series that we are preparing. Thank you for that. We will leave at the end the information to register so that people can do it. And without further ado, it is my pleasure to hand over to Mrs. Atsuko Okuda, the Regional Director for Asia Pacific of the International Telecommunication Union, for the closing remarks and the next steps for this series. Thank you very much, Atsuko. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana, and all the participants. The discussion was very, very rich. There were so many important elements which were tabled in this very short time frame, to think of it, of 1 hour covering all the 4 pillars. And I congratulate all the speakers for making a very succinct but very informative interventions. Now, if I can take the liberty to summarize what institutionalization means in the context of early warning for all, based on this conversation, I came up with 4 particular elements. One is the policy and legal instruments. 2, we discussed the institutionalization of principles and approaches. 3, governance structure. 4, systems, infrastructure, and facilities. Let me just unpack a little bit of how I took notes and summarized and categorized these elements. One, I believe there were several speakers who talked about not only the roadmap, but its implementation and actually making that institutionalized through the DRM Act, the National Emergency Telecommunication Plan, updates to legal and legislative instruments, not only at the national level, but also international. And several speakers emphasized the importance of SOP. So this is policy and legal instruments. But at the same time, there are principle and approach level discussions, which I believe it's very important to institutionalize. For example, inclusion is a cross-cutting topic. I think everyone emphasized alignment with local needs, cross-sectoral collaboration and partnership, accessibility, people-centered approach, and culturally relevant early warning for all, which is adaptable and flexible and interconnected. And 3, in terms of the governance structure, I believe that the Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 speakers especially emphasized the need of local structure, such as village committee, aligned with the central government initiatives and instruments, so that community actions are in line with the central the policies and roadmaps. And four, thanks to Renga, who brought up the issue of last mile connectivity through initiatives such as Smart Islands. This, I believe, came up several times across the pillars, and that was supported and added with the importance of integrated data systems, maps, call centers, and of course, cell broadcasts and the CAP, the Common Alert Protocol. So I'm sorry that I took the liberty of categorizing those important points around these four elements of institutionalization. But if I can also summarize why these are important at this particular juncture, I have four reasons based on our discussion. And this is also my interpretation. One is mainstreaming the benefits and best practices that we are all collectively accumulating in Asia and the Pacific. Two, this structure and institutions will create predictable environment so that we will not be surprised that things keep changing, right? Once it's institutionalized, it's there in a sustainable manner. And I think it will clarify roles and responsibilities among key players. So it will also give the stability for us. And four, I hope that that will help secure the financial and other resources to continue implementing the early warning for all initiatives. And these elements, I believe, will manifest differently across four pillars. But I think that they're also interconnected and they're complementary. Perhaps that's the beauty of it. And I hope that in totality, this will take us to the next step of early warning for all, deepening our effort collectively. So, Diana, thank you for giving me this opportunity to summarize this very rich conversation. I hope I did a bit of justice to everyone, and I look forward to the next opportunity. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you to you, Atsuko, and to all the speakers and the participants for this conversation. And we look forward for the next one in, I think, exactly 1 month. So we reconvene to discuss about inclusion and early warning systems, building also on this important conversation. Thank you again and have a good day and see you soon.